Hello and welcome to the weekly Art Roundup, where I document all things art related that I have achieved for the week and all the insights and discoveries that I have made, and then create a new set of goals for the coming week. So hopefully I can inspire you to keep working on your own artistic and life journeys, I guess. So what's in the video? There's quite a bit to cover this week. We have more horse studies where I try to overcome some of the blocks that I talked about last time. We have some new oil painting practice pieces and a sneaky morning sketch. So let's start there. By now, the most recent morning sketch video should be up where I go into more details about my decision. But basically, I decided that I want to keep them in my life because I can use them as a stress outlet to help avoid burning out on all the horses that I'm doing lately. So they have been brought back before they got cancelled. Just a little more casually now though, so there may not be a recording every week, but I will be doing them in the background. And here is the last one that I did record, and I'm really surprised at how the work that I'm doing with the horses is also playing into other things that I do. And I could really feel the gesture horses that I've done playing a part in here with this, in my control over the pencil and the overall approach that I took. It's very interesting and also welcome. A bit glary because of the pencil. Anyway, so let's move that off to the side. So continuing on from there, we have the horse forms and gestures. Now, something interesting actually happened when I sat down to do these gestures at the time. I felt they sucked big time. Just showing them there. Looking at this first printer paper, the first one isn't too bad, this one here. But I was just so confused with the second one, and you can see I ended up dropping it. And I can still see in that first one, though, that I did include some of the more confident lines, which was nice. Just here and there. All right, next. Oh gosh. Honestly, at this point, I could feel that I was just really struggling to get into that flow I had last time. And I considered quitting the session, not the whole thing. But I also want to have the ability to be able to work through these problems when they come up. And it's a really important skill for me to learn personally. But as you can see, especially with this fourth one, it's not very nice. It's not very nice at all. It looks like a kid drew it. But yeah, I think that was a bit of a regression for me. It's terrible. Look. But I think while I can see that I did try to stay fluid, everything feels off. It looks off too. And I think this is coming down to proportions. As you can see, I was trying to work through that problem. I recognized that there was a problem there, and I tried to work through it by doing this again. And I just put B for bad. Because I didn't know what was going on. The result is only marginally better than this one, but I was still scratching my head because I know I can do it. I just didn't know what was going on. So this is going to take a little bit more investigation, and I thought I would try those contours from my goal list as the extra goal, remember, because I actually got all my oil paintings done by Wednesday, which was great, but it left me wondering what to do. So I thought if I took a different approach to tackle the gestures, I might be able to intuit the solution, if that makes sense. So I did the contours. I did the same pose again and just worked the forms and contours. And I felt this was helping me with the proportion issue a little bit as well. And to see the horses as a three-dimensional form, it did feel like it was helping somehow. So I did a few more. I tried it with the failed gesture from the second printer paper, this one. This is the same pose. And I think I was fairly successful in getting a better understanding of what was going on with these horse forms. Then I was ready to tackle that absolute failure from the first printer paper, this one. It was a really difficult angle and with such strong foreshortening. But by concentrating on how the forms are in space and using the contours as a visual guide, I was able to think, I was better able to actually draw this. So thinking about it now, perhaps it would be better for me to start my gesture drawing sessions with a few forms and contour drawings just to get the feel of the horse before getting too gestural with it. And perhaps that day last time, maybe it was a fluke, I don't know. Even if it was, I know that it's possible for me to do that. So I just want to make what happened last time happen most of the time. I did one more page of both gestures and forms before I was ready to put one in my little horsey book, which I'll show in a moment. So that's a gesture and that's the forms. I even broke it down into just sectioning off the horse. But as you can see, I was still a little nervous about getting it right. And then I was ready to put one in my sketchbook. So those were the past ones, and this is it here. As you can see, I was still a little nervous about getting it right. Because in this little book, because it's in this little book, and now I have the unwanted expectation that everything in here has to be perfect. And that's just not on. So I will have to work on knocking off that attitude before I make it just all too stressful to even draw in. So extra drawings. Later last night I tried a couple of extra printer papers just to work on the whole horse. I tried to remember what the skeleton might look like, and these results are a little bit questionable. I thought that gesture came out a little bit better. I tried to do the same pose just with a little bit of a skeleton underneath. I was trying to explore my knowledge. It was the part of the learning process where I'm trying to find a way to apply what I have learned just to make sure I've actually learned it. It's not too bad, and I kind of like this page, although it's not very accurate. I think I remembered the most important bits. I expanded on this because I thought I was onto something. I did one totally from memory, which is this one, without a reference at all, and it's a little bit short in the back, but I can see that I've got a rudimentary understanding of it. All the elements are there. It's just, it could be better, more accurate, I guess, in proportion. But I have that rudimentary understanding of it. And the bottom one, this bottom one was using a reference, so its proportions are a little bit better. And I tried again on the back side of the paper. So these were, I just want to add that these were done after my anatomy studies for the day. So let's look at those now. We'll get back to this page in a moment. What's this one under here? Oh, blank. All right. Let's look at the anatomy studies. Anatomy. All right. As we can see, the last page from last time, I still haven't watched that video session to see if it's as bad as I think. I think I'm just a little bit too scared. But anyway, on from there, I tried drawing the back leg, well, the bones of the back leg, including the hip, and labeling them. So I have a reference point when I'm learning about the muscle origins and attachments. And I kind of like this drawing. It's helped me with the following pages that I did as well in here. As we remember from last time, I felt that I had a block stopping me from moving on to the rest of the horse. And this was a week where I was going to find a way to move past that block. And I did, in a way. I decided to work on the muscles around the hip. And my thoughts were that I can expand out from there. And it took me a while. I watched a few dissection videos over and over again just until I could understand where the muscles started and finished and the shapes they make. Because I have found that most drawn references on the internet are all slightly different. So I actually went and watched dissection videos, which was very, after I got over the initial ickiness of it, it was very interesting. Now, I don't need to know about all the muscles, just the ones that we can see superficially or affect the ones that we can see, or just are really important in the locomotion of the horse. So that means that I can leave all those really deep internal ones alone, which is a bit of a relief. So this is the page where I started, and first I started with just one or two muscles up here, and I draw them in so I can see what's going on. And then any other muscles that I think I need to know. So that's where you can see. Oh, and I've labelled everything this time. So for the rear end, at least on this side view, I studied about 4 muscles. And that was the tensor fasciae lata, the middle gluteal, which sits underneath the superficial gluteal muscle, the biceps femoris, and there's a semitendinosus muscle that sits behind there, but it's kind of, you see it from the rear, and the semimembranosus, which kind of goes more towards the inside of the thigh, of the arse. Yeah, and I also briefly touched on, I didn't draw it yet, but I also did briefly look at the quadriceps just to know that they are there, and they may affect how the area looks in specific poses. So I will add that to this book. But here on this page, you can see the biceps femoris in a little bit more detail, and actually how all the muscles kind of fit together. And I think these are really good. I can use these for reference, for future reference if I need to. This one isn't quite as accurate because I didn't realize that the big muscle of the biceps femoris actually attaches to the patella. So that's where I corrected my knowledge on the next page, and you can see that I've done that. It connects to the patella, the fascia, and the tendon bits that are hanging, that are off the ligaments or whatever it is that are on that side. So yeah, I think these are good, and they will make good future references. But here's the thing, and this is to do with this page that's behind. Here's an issue that I can see coming up really fast. All these studies so far of the horse in one direction, well, apart from that, in one direction, well, apart from that as well, apart from the head, are all in one direction. Everything's all in one direction. Now, this is going to be an absolute huge issue for me very, very soon. I actually identified this issue at the very start with the muscles of the head, which is why a few of those were turned around on there. But my thinking was that I would just tackle that later on once I understand a few more of the muscles. But I think the longer I draw just one side, the bigger this problem is going to become, because I find it very hard to draw things turned around in space in different directions or angles. It locks my brain up. My brain will just lock up, and it'll just be like, zzz. It's bizarre. But I did try and find a way to work through this just briefly. This was this was last night. So this was just briefly me identifying the problem and trying a little bit to work through it. I did try to find a way to simplify the hip, the pelvis. And I tried to turn that around in space, as you can see. I just grabbed whatever pen I had handy. And yeah, it's a bit embarrassing. Some of these drawings are a little bit embarrassing. But as you can see, I did have a lot of trouble with both the simplification of a complex shape like the pelvis and also being able to understand its shape at other angles. I did start to get there in the end. But yeah, I've forgotten. It would feel like I was starting from scratch if I did another page right now. So I'm going to have to work out a study program for myself to work on that spatial ability, the ability to turn forms. And it definitely needs work if I want to be able to draw without sticking to a reference exactly. So if I see a reference of something and it's not quite at the right angle that I want to use, I want to be able to turn that. And at the moment I can't. Quite honestly, I just can't do it. So let's get to the paintings. I'm really enjoying my oil paintings. So this first one, I was trying to explore how to apply the paint. I'm just going to go over these really quickly because I do have diary entries for these. So I'm just showing you at the moment. But this one, I was trying to explore how to apply the paint and experiment more with the palette knife. And that's when I realized I was having trouble painting the forms. And stuff was just kind of all over the place. But I did try. And then the second one. Oops. These are still... Is this still... No, this one's not wet anymore. The second one was a horrible start. It was horrible. It was with the gel matte medium. And honestly, it's just overall bad, I think. I did get to mix up a lot of the blondish colours. So I guess I got some of that colour mixing practice in, which is part of learning to paint, but it wasn't a total waste. I'll get into my diary entry for this in just a moment. Now the third one was a really nice surprise. It's still really wet. Let's see how wet that is. So I haven't taken it off its little board because it still needs to dry. But yeah, I've got, I'll read out the diary entries for these just in a moment. This only took me 40 minutes, which was a real surprise. And I was actually really shocked. All right, so let's go through the entries. So the diaries. The diary for this one. Today I wanted to start a painting a bit earlier as it's the biggest activity today, the one that takes the most effort. I tried experimenting a bit more. I started by mixing and laying out my colours. I painted a few brush strokes for the horse, and once I had most of that covered, I moved on to the background. I had seen a picture that had a nice background effect and I thought I could try that, and to me it looked like it was done with a palette knife and a lot more time than I spent. It wasn't long before I realised that it would not look the same, but I wasn't too worried as this is what I need to do to get where I want. So I tried to enjoy the mess that I was making. Once I worked the background a bit, I went back to the horse and I tried to be more aware of the strokes that I was putting down. And while I think I still had little control over what I was doing. The main thing was I found it was difficult to define my forms by blending the paint, so I think I might work on that next time. I don't like the result too much right now, but who knows, I might like it in a few days. I wrote some notes down, so I'll just read that out now. Have the reference ready the day or night before. Write down any specific notes on the reference of things you want to achieve. Be specific with the parts you really want to work on. Completely clean the palette over the weekend so it's fresh for the week. The paint will be too dry to use by then anyway. And buy or make a second palette so you have one to go to when the current one is too clogged up. That's because I've got a wooden palette. I'm actually going to get a glass palette very soon, I think. Make sure you write on the back what prep you use. So what was this one? Poster paint. This was the poster paint one, ×3. Try one of the cardboards with no prep. It might dry faster, and who cares if it leaches all through the other side. Yeah, I wrote that in my diary. All right, so the next day. So that was for this one. I tried painting on gel medium and I won't be doing that ever again. I just have to laugh because my diary sometimes are just brutally honest. It was just awful to paint on. So awful that I considered just abandoning the painting altogether right then and there. There were ridges where it had been brushed on and it felt really tacky to paint on at first. But when I tried thinning down the paint a little with spirits, it didn't get any better. It bled into all the ridges that covered the surface, but I thought perhaps if it might get better once I have a layer of oil down. But I hated working with it until then, and getting that initial layer of paint on was a nightmare as well. Once I got into the painting a bit more, I tried to consider the forms, and at first it felt like I was out of control. I had a moment of panic, probably left over from the disastrous start, but after that, after each successive brushstroke, I was able to think a little clearer. I was able to almost feel what it would be like to paint for real. I mean, I tried, but it was still difficult for me. What I mean is it felt possible. I felt it was possible for me to learn this. I just need to calm down and spend more time at the canvas. This also got me to thinking that I should start at least one painting that would be done over an entire week instead of just 1 hour like I have been doing so far. I think with the extra time over a number of days that it might help me like the long drawings did. It gives me time to work things out without rushing. So that's that one. Next. So this was on Wednesday. I wrote, I used the coloured acrylic coated cardboard today. At first the paint didn't seem to go far on the canvas, but once again, after I had enough of a layer, it went down well and I could practice painting. This was supposed to be the more detailed painting, and yet it turns out I spent less time on this than all the others, but I feel I did achieve what I wanted. I guess I got to finish painting early today, but it did leave me with a feeling of not doing enough, so I might use my system for long drawings and apply it to an oil painting and see how I go. About the background, I think it's a bit too bright and overpowering. I did try to lighten it, but I don't think there was much I could do to fix it because it would take time to problem solve that one. And I just wanted to take the win and walk away and be done with it. I was able to try and bring out the forms. I found myself getting easily confused though and throwing everything I had learned about the anatomy of the head out. I can only hope that that knowledge is still in there, but because I'm concentrating more on painting, I don't have enough brain bandwidth power to hold everything in my head at once. This will only come with practice. Once I become competent in painting, I'm sure I will be calm and thoughtful enough to bring that out in my work. Still, it might be a good idea to do a page of skulls at different angles just in case. Where did that come from? I think the biggest thing for me to learn with the painting right now is to calm my mind, stop the rushing thoughts of having to do everything already and thinking about so many different things at once. Just calm my mind and thoughts, look at my reference for a moment to really take in what it is that I want to do next, and then lay down my brushstroke. It will take a lot of practice for me to be more considerate with my painting, but I do look forward to that day, and I can already tell how much fun and zen-like it will be. I did some gestures with extra time and they were awful. I didn't mind drawing them, but for some reason I couldn't get my spatial awareness down and my proportions were way off. I did them anyway, may as well, lol. so that's my I don't know why I thought about skulls. What was I thinking about painting skulls? That was just out of nowhere. I have made a painting of a skull, but I don't know if I actually want to paint. Maybe draw skulls at a different angle. Oh, we'll see. Not quite sure what I meant by that. I probably should have expanded at the time, but maybe I wasn't really thinking clearly. Okay. All right. So that's the oil paintings. Let's get to the business end. Let me just grab my... Oh, my little thing has come off. That's all right. My papers. I have lots of papers. Let's see. These were my goal. No, these are past goals. Get rid of those. They're gone. They're dusted. So these were my goals for this week. Sorry about that. I had to go and get a pen because I want to be able to mark myself. And make it real. Did I mark the other ones? No, I didn't. Anyway. Okay. Well, I'm going to start marking them. All right. Just for a little bit of extra. Okay. So 4 pages of anatomy of the rear end of the horse. So was it 4 pages? One. Oh, I've got the computer ones. I haven't even shown the ones that I did on the computer. I'll put them up on the screen now because they are my extra ones. But in the sketchbook, we've got 1, 2, 3. So yeah, the extra ones, I guess I should be more specific about that because I did do some on the computer, which will be up on the screen now. I'm going to mark this as done for now, because at the time I was thinking the digital ones would count as well. So I'll mark that for now, but I'm going to be more specific about where I'm going to be doing these practices from now on. So goal number 1, 4 pages of anatomy, check. Number 2, 3 oil paintings, yes. Try surface gel medium, yes. Coloured acrylic paint, yes. Work on richer colours and brushwork. Try a more complete painting. And that was this one. So yes. 2 printer papers of gesture drawing. Yes. I did extra, so that was good because I was having trouble, so that's good. 1 sketchbook gesture. Yes. Bonus form drawings, 2 printer papers. So yeah, I did that. I got all of my goals done this week, so I think that was a really good effort. So we're going to rip that baby off. Away she goes onto my list of... I've actually been keeping them. I've been keeping them because this is a record saying that, yes, I can set myself goals and, yeah, I can actually do them as well. Learning about goal setting along the way. That's awesome, isn't it? So as far as the new goals for the week ahead, they are pretty much going to be some of the same things, just with a couple of extra things that I just want to work on. So, number 1. I think the gesture and forms are important, so I want at least 3 printer papers. of each. And then one gesture and form, whether it be contour or whatever, in Sketchbook. So as you can see, my weekly goals are starting to get a little bit more specific, and that came down to, I don't know, I think it was in episode 2, I said that I had shit plans. So I'm slowly working on making better ones. Now I want two printer papers. Printer paper is just so good just to practice on, seriously, and it's so cheap. Of turning, oh God, I'm kind of nervous of turning forms, because I find this so difficult. So what forms are we going to be turning? I think skeletal forms. Pelvis and attached pelvis, and other parts that have attachments. I'll figure that out, because I don't know how that's going to look at the moment. So that's going to be one of the ones that I'll have to figure out as I go and be more specific for next time. 3. Anatomy studies. So I want to continue with the body and try and work through the back and the trunk muscles. Connect the front to the back. So 4 pages. In Sketchbook. Anatomy study. I'm not writing the whole thing down. I'm getting lazy. Connecting horse. Front and back. So that would be the back and trunk muscles. And I think after that I'll have to get into the legs, because there's lots of tendons, and I don't really need to know too much about that, but I do need to know what muscles are there, but not for this week. Okay, all right. So in the Sketchbook, so this doesn't include extra. I'll just put digital will be extra. Now the digital studies did help me, because I started trying to identify the muscles on photos. Okay, so 4, our 4th goal, oil painting. I'm going to start needing a bigger piece of paper for my weekly goals. So I want to add something a little different, but first of all, I do want to do 2 practice paintings, 2 cardboards, 2 cardboards of parts to explore painting their forms, if that makes sense. So things like maybe the eye, the muzzle, or just maybe the whole hip part, or just, you know, legs or a hoof or something like that. So just on parts, or maybe the skulls that I mentioned earlier in my diary that I've got no idea what that was connected to. So that's that. And the big project that I want to have a practice run, so this is just to try a longer painting. So that means working on the same painting over a number of days or sessions. And I have been leading up to this, and it's similar to how I used to do my long drawings, and I got so much from those long drawings. In fact, I made a video about it, how much I benefited from them, and I will link it at the end so that you can check it out if you want. So I'm going to apply that process, that system that I developed while doing that to the paintings. And the point is to practice spending more time with a painting and let it evolve over time, instead of just doing it in one session of around about an hour, which is what I have been doing. The thing is, having been done with that last painting so abruptly that only took me 40 minutes, it was just a bit of a shock to me. So that's telling me that I need to work on longer projects as well as the short ones. So, one. Now these are going to be called long paintings, but I'm just going to put LP. LP number 1. Long painting. Now that doing a long painting, like my long drawings, actually take a set of steps. So I'll be doing those, and I might document that in a separate video to see how that goes. This is still wet. All right, so we are at the end. Lots of ups and downs this week, highlights and lowlights, discoveries and new directions. All part of the self-learning process, especially now that I'm really applying myself to this direction. I will need to work on those longer term goals in the near future, but I think I need to think about them just a little bit more deeply, and just work out a more robust plan. I mean, I'm not going to just paint horses for the rest of my life, even though I do enjoy them, and I always have. I will eventually come back to other things, but I am making this choice right now, so I have a system, a kind of roadmap for learning that I can work with. It will serve as my base to work from. So far, I think that it's working out quite well, actually. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, or just leave a like if you liked it, if you liked this video. I don't know. Or leave a comment and saying, I made it. That'd be awesome to see a comment saying, I made it. That way I know someone watched to the end. But anyway, I hope going through my learning process is interesting enough to watch, and might even give you a few ideas to try yourself. Let me know, like I said in the comments, if you are on your own journeys and what stage you're on. But anyway, if you would like to see more, maybe subscribe to come back and check out the progress with this series every now and then. And yeah, I will see you next week, hopefully. Thank you for watching. Bye. I've tried to make my desk a little prettier today. I don't know. I mean, I like it, but you can't see it on camera. But it does make it a little bit more, I don't know, inviting.